Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm excited to welcome to the show legendary songwriter Russ Ballard. We're going to talk all about his amazing career, some of the songs he wrote, his new album, his connection with Kiss, and so much more. There's lots to cover in this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. First, Russ, I just want to welcome you to the show, and I want to congratulate you on your forthcoming album, Songs from the Warehouse and the Hits Rewired. You've been in the industry 60 years, I think it is at this point. Do you still get excited when you're releasing new music and new material?
Yeah, it's basically the same, I think if you've got a love for it, it's going to feel the same. I've never lost the love or the passion for music. I'm still like the 16-year-old kid.
That's great. Do you ever worry when you're releasing new music? Like, how is this going to compare to my classics that so many people love? Or do you just say, I'm putting it out there, I'm doing this for me, and I'm going to just continue enjoying putting out new music?
You're talking about classics, but that's how I always did it. I just put them out there like that, and some, people pick them up, and that's how it's always been in my life.
Sure, sure. Well, to me, you're one of the great songwriters of this generation. And one of the things I noticed that you were discussing is that you started writing this album during the pandemic, and that you said that the studio was a lifesaver for you. And this is the part that jumped out at me. You found new ways of writing music. Can you explain what that means? Because I'm like, wow, how do you find new ways after all these years?
Well, for me, when when I came off the road, I'd been with Argent for 3 or 4 years, and I left the band mainly because I had a child, and I wanted to be around to see my children develop, be with the family basically. But I knew I could write tunes, so the way of I think staying as a songwriter, being able to do being a songwriter as a living is pretty. It's not easy because you've got to keep coming up with songs that are commercial. Luckily, I always had a record deal, so I
Hmm.
was able to sit at home, write tunes for myself, and they happened to be recorded by other people. But when as I got older, I found that it's harder to write songs about "I love you," "Come to me," "Don't go away from me," you know, jealousy, all those emotions. It's harder as you get older. You see, I mean, it's difficult really to be honest and put yourself in that kind of position. Where you're falling in love. I think I could still do it because you still feel the emotion. I still sort of cry when I see something. I cry at adverts. To be honest.
Hmm.
So it's so I've always been that kind of way, but it's harder to write. I found that I've been going deeper, as I get older, trying to find. When I say find new ways to write, it's not. It's like always finding an idea, a story idea, or a title, which always suggests an idea. You find that even the sound of a word would suggest what tempo it should be, what kind of feel it should be. As I said before, like when I wrote liar, that's a vicious word, and that's never going to
Hmm.
be, saying liar to someone is never going to be a real "I love you, come back to me, darling" song. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's not going to happen. But yeah, I find going deeper into myself, deeper into sort of other feelings you have, I find
Mm.
it's more challenging, but it's very satisfying, just looking for other things to write about. When I wrote Voices, that was sort of more obscure, and I liked it
Hmm.
because it was an obscure idea. Some people say introspective, introverted idea, but it did touch a nerve.
Absolutely. So, I'm one of those people that have always, when I bought an album, look at the credits, look at
Yeah,
who's the
me too.
writer of the songs, producer, all of that stuff. So I've had a
Yeah.
few songwriters on my podcast over the years, and I'm always curious as a songwriter, what's the most important element of a song to you? Is it the music? Is it the lyrics? Is it the vocal melody? What do you find most important when writing a song?
I found people have said in the past it's all about for the success of a song. It's obviously the melody, the song itself, and the performance. I think that's still very true.
Hmm.
The song, you can have a song without the performance; it won't do anything. A great performance, somebody singing something great, but the song's not so good, and it still won't make it there. There's got to be communication basically, and it's being able to communicate. And I think that's the element. But somebody said to me years ago, which I still take on board now, it's the song and the performance.
Hmm.
It's the song. Once you get the song, and it doesn't matter so much about the production, as long as they're. I think. I mean, I'm going to the ultimate now when I say first time ever I saw your face, Roberta Flack.
Hmm.
I mean, that was just it was like no other production. It was so laid back. It was so, and you listen to it and you think, is that a is that a radio song? Was that a radio song of the time? Because it's so laid back. It doesn't have the tempo, I think, you could tell me, like DJs or sort of people playing music. Would they say this sits well in my
Hmm.
program because it's
Right.
so laid back? It's
Right, right.
crazy.
No, nobody's dancing to that song.
Nobody's dancing, and you say to you, but that's the performance was amazing and the song was beautiful. And you say, yeah, it restores my faith in music, when I know people are listening to that and loving it. I mean, there's a lot of those. She did another one. The next song was beautiful as well, which was "On the time for the fingers, da, 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 killing me softly."
Oh yeah.
That was
Uh-huh.
our next, that
Yep.
was our next tune, which is, that wasn't a normal love song, but it was a love song. It was a love song about listening to a song. And that was big as well, so fantastic.
Absolutely. So going back to then your new album, right? So the new song Resurrection. Talk about writing that song and how that came about.
That came about. I always like, as I said, I like writing. I've always liked writing from a title because a title will have a story, or you find a story in the title, and you find the tempo, or you find the strength of the rhythm. Um, I've been writing a few tunes with my friend plays guitar with me in my band, Roley Jones, and yeah, we've written a few. We've finished nothing. This is the first song we've ever finished together. But uh, he turned up one day. He said, "Any chance I come over and see you?" And we go for dinner and everything at the end of the day. And he said, "I've got a great title, Resurrection." Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. We sat down and bang, just went straight into it. It was mad,
Mm. Mm.
and that's
Now,
that's what it came about.
the rest of the songs on the album, the newer songs, are these all songs that are written pandemic and forward, or is this stuff that you maybe had that you kind of went back and revisited?
A few of the tunes, most of the tunes are pretty recent. I had one, "Sleepwalking" was a song I think was from the pandemic. Um, uh, there was an soul music which I played on the piano. It was more of a sort of R&B tune. Um, that was written, I think, in the pandemic. Sure, the one that breathes me. That was that was written in the pandemic. I
Mhm.
just trying to think of all the tunes here. Um, Charlatan is a more recent tune. That was the idea of you call me a charlatan. There's a
Mhm.
charlatan in all of us. So I think
Absolutely.
had that idea for the lyric, and I thought, yeah, I've got to use that because that's quite nice.
Right, right, right. Now, we were saying before, you've written many hits over the years for other artists. Why did you decide now to go back and re-record some of those songs that you've written for others and release them, like I'll say your versions now?
Only because people have suggested it to me for years and years. You know, when I had a couple of hits, like a lot of my hits have been songs that I've recorded, I've written, recorded, I've demoed, and they've they've been hits 3, 4 years later by other people.
Yeah.
Dog Night did Liar, I think, a year after, or a year, was it a year? I think they actually released it. No, we never released Liar, did we? No. They released that in 71, and we released the song in 70 on the album,
Hmm.
on the first Argent album. Um, my second solo album had this is what happened with my second solo album. It's called Winning. The
Yep.
album is called Winning. The main song from the album was Winning, and put that out as a single,
Yep.
and it didn't happen. I thought it's pretty good, but it didn't happen as a single. The second song from that, and that was a hit for Santana 4 years later.
Right.
Uh, but the second song on the album was released as a single. That's Since You've Been Gone.
Right.
But I think Rainbow saw it and Head East saw it better than the way I saw it. I was seeing it on piano and stuff. Um, but I think it was always a rock song, really, to be honest. I had another song on there that Roger Daltrey did, which was Just a Dream Away. He did that in a movie. Um, Bay City Rollers did another one on that album. So yeah, uh, yeah. There's been lots of others. I did the demo of a song Frida cut of mine. She cut I Know There's Something Going On,
Yep.
which Phil Collins produced, and he played drums on that, and that was good. My demo was really good, to be
Hmm.
honest. I always wrote for myself. I usually wrote for myself. I mean, a couple of times I didn't write for myself. I didn't write New York Groove for me. I wrote it actually for an English band, although Ace, they recorded it, and
Right.
Ace really recorded it. I did my demo with the band in 75, and Ace had a top 10 hit with it in 78.
Yeah. So you actually specifically wrote that song for the band Hello?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, I went in the studio with them. My brother found the band, and he said
Hmm.
they're really good. They're only kids, and they're all 16,
Right.
but they were amazing. They look great. The singer looked $1 million. And
Hmm.
it was a hit. It was a hit in England
In
in
England. Yep.
75. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, did you know that Ace Frehley was going to be covering that on his 78 solo album, or did it surprise you when you all of a sudden heard it on the radio?
No, I was told I was in New York. Fun enough, I was in New York, and people saying, Ace is. I knew that Kiss had made their solo albums, and somebody said to me in an office, I think in the publisher's office, said to me, Ace Frehley's cut New York Groove. Wow, that's great.
Mhm.
At that time, it wasn't a hit.
Right. Right. Interesting. Now, I know obviously you've mentioned that you played with Argent for a few years, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Kiss and Argent were on a couple of shows together in the early 70s. So did you know them at that time, or were you friendly at all with them?
No, not really, to be honest. We weren't introduced. At that time, I think, when you're younger, you're a little bit reticent, sort of like, you know, uh, it's, you're more moody when you're young, aren't you? I think
Sure.
usually. And we played with them, first of all, 1970, 71, round about that. I think I never heard of the band. It might have been 70 because it was really, really the Academy of Music in New York.
Probably early 74, I think that was.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
Wow,
so.
72 then. It must have
Yeah.
been 72 because we played Academy of Music a few times. I tried.
Okay.
Yeah, we played there a few times. Yeah, we played. I remember playing St. Louis with them as well.
Hmm.
But the first time, we went to the sound check for our sound check, and they were the sound checking, and they were just the band that were dressed normally,
Hmm.
but had this big sign at the back of the stage saying Kiss is flashing on and off. And it looked really, yeah, larger than life, you know. And it wasn't until the evening when I was in the wings, standing in the wings, they all came down to do this spot. And they were like, you know, 7 feet tall, you know,
Right.
over 7 feet tall, because they had the boots, platform boots and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It looked really effective, and they were the only ones doing that then, you know.
Absolutely. Now I noticed that so you re-recorded New York Groove on your new album,
Yeah.
and I noticed that some of the vocal phrasing in the verses is a little bit different, not too drastic, but a little different, and that there's even I'm going to say an extra verse. It sounds like at the end. Is this the way you originally wrote or demoed the song, or is
Yeah.
this your attempt just to kind of make it new and fresh for
Yeah. I
2025?
wanted to, I thought, yeah, it'd be nice to put something else at the end of this, you know. And I
Yeah,
was thinking, I tell you what I was thinking about. I love the whole mood of New York. I think of New York, and one of the things that's really a strong sort of thing for me to focus on is the gospel choirs. And I could imagine walking through it. I've got all the thing of walking through in the Cadillac with girls and stuff and whatever, you know. And then the other aspect, the other part of it is walking through and listening to music coming from a chapel, coming from, you know, uh, and then seeing about, you know, going down into the subway and all that the other
yeah,
stuff. So yeah, that came. I just started to sing it, and I thought, I'll put this down. I put this idea down.
yeah. Yeah, no, I liked it. It kind of gave it a fresh little twist on a song that
Yeah,
we all
yeah,
know for
yeah,
40, 50 years now. So
yeah.
saying that, I mean, fast forward from when you wrote this song in 1975, could you ever, because I live in New York, could you ever imagine that that song 40, 50 years later would be played at all these different sporting events, baseball games, football games? Did you envision that when you wrote this song?
No idea.
Yep.
No
Yep.
idea. No, the reason I wrote that was because I was on a plane going to New York to cut an album, and I thought, oh, I thought it's a good title, Back in the New York
Sure.
Groove, and I wrote it down, and uh, that's how that came about. And I did think, well, I could give this to her because I knew my brother had told me about Hello, and I wrote it down and put it in my bag. And I thought I'm going to try this idea with the band. I made up in the studio with the band there.
Interesting. Interesting. Now
Very,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'd say it was very quick.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Now, sticking with Ace Frehley for a moment, obviously, like you said, he had a big hit with that song. Fast forward to when he leaves Kiss, he decides to again cover one of your songs, which was actually in Miami Vice, right? And for you, it was In the Night, right? And he, for whatever reason, changed it to Into the Night. So, was that song more successful to you from Miami Vice, which I think a lot of fans still remember it there? Or was it more successful for you as a lead single for an Ace Frehley album?
It did. Financially, I think it was more successful on Ace's
Okay.
album, to be honest. But I think he used Into the Night for the rhythm of it, da 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 da, which is a good rhythm. I did Into the Night, maybe.
Yep.
You know, that was. I think that might have been the idea.
Okay. You were talking before about the performance of songs, and it made me think about when I interviewed songwriter Holly Knight, who wrote Love is a Battlefield and many other great songs.
Great
I
songs, yeah.
remember her saying to me that she was very surprised the way Pat Benatar took her demo of Love is a Battlefield, twisted it, made it so different sounding than her demo. Is there any recordings where you demoed a song and then you said, "What did this artist just do to my song?"
Yeah, yeah. There's been a few. I've mentioned this before a couple of times, actually. I made a great, I thought I made, I wanted to make in 1976, because I was still contracted. I was still contracted to CBS, actually, to Sony. I think it was Sony then in London. And there were a few artists out, Hall and Oates, Robert Palmer, Boss Gags, those kind of
Yeah.
soul singers, you know, R&B singers, and I thought I could make this kind of album. I know I could really do it. And the Blue Eyed Soul thing was out, and I went in. I used to go into the studio for the publisher and do like three tunes in 2 days. I'd go into the studio, um, and I'd mix them as well, have them mixed. And one of the songs in '76 was a song called it was called So You Win Again, the idea of So You Win Again. That was the idea of the story and the lyric. Um, and I thought it was a really good demo. And I played it to the record company, or one person at the record company, who was the
Okay.
boss. Who was the boss? You know, he went, yeah, yeah, that's a great tune. I mean, an American living in London. You know, he said, oh yeah, it's a great tune. He said, but that's for a black band. That's not for you.
Hmm.
So I thought, what's the point in pursuing that? You know.
Right, right, right,
Yeah, so I didn't pursue it. But Hot Chocolate,
right.
Made it, and within a month that was out.
Right.
And Mickey Most produced it, and he did more of a slow groove to it, very slow. So when I first heard it, I thought my demo was really good. When I heard the Hot Chocolate version, I thought they'd blown it actually because it was very, very different. But it got to number one, and it was really, it's still played all the time now,
Yeah.
you know. But it was a really good version, but very English. It wasn't an American sounding
Right.
track. It
Right.
was
Right.
very English.
And it wasn't the way you had originally
No,
thought of it. Right.
I thought they'd blown it because I thought it was too laid back.
Right. Right. Well, it
Yeah,
goes back to what you were saying before about the performance. And, that's
yeah,
one of the things to me that's always what New York Groove, you were saying before, how it was a hit for Hello in England, but it was a minor hit. And then for Ace Frehley, it was a huge hit. And even though it does stylistically sound similar, there's something about Ace's vocal in that I think just kind of brings it, and maybe his New York roots just kind of brings that to the next level. And it
yeah,
goes to your point with performance.
exactly. Yeah, his version's much more. It's much more punky. It sounds like a punk singing. It
Right.
sounds to me. It sounds like a guy that might have had a couple of Quaaludes or something. I don't know.
Which he might have, who knows? So now it's funny because I mean you do have this on and off connection with Kiss over the years, and as you know, in '92 they go and they re-record "God Gave Rock and Roll to You," which was an Argent song you wrote. What did you think of their version, and did you know that they were going to change all the lyrics to the song?
Uh, I didn't know. I guess, but I think they saw it well because they uh, they sped it up a little. Um, but I was told it was probably going to be in the movie, and it
Bill
came
and
from
Ted.
yeah, well, it came from Bill and Ted. But the guy I spoke to was Blondie's Nigel Harrison, the bass player. I saw him. He said he was in a record company somewhere, and I was waiting to go into an A&R thing, and he saw me. He said, "Are you Russ Ballard?" I said, "Yeah." He said, we're collating songs for this new Bill and Ted film, and I hadn't seen the Bill and Ted the first one. Uh, he said, and I've suggested your song, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, for this scene in the movie. And lo and behold, yeah, that they apparently tried it with some other bands as well. But Kiss was absolutely dead right, wasn't it?
Interesting. I never knew that song was tried for other bands outside
Yeah,
of Kiss
yeah,
at
yeah.
that time.
Apparently, they tried it with a couple of other bands. So I hear allegedly.
Okay, so it's not like you know which bands tried the song before
No, I
Kiss.
don't.
Okay.
I don't know who it was, but they said they tried it with a couple of bands, and when Kiss said we'll do it,
Right. Interesting.
obviously they wanted Kiss to do it, but they changed the lyric, which I think makes it more rock. It makes it, makes the entire thing about rock. When I started mine, I was thinking about love your friend and love your neighbor,
Right.
much more kind of.
Right.
It's
Which
not so
you
rock.
right, which you have now recorded a new version of that for your CD, and you went back to the original lyrics as you wrote them.
Yeah, as I originally wrote them, yeah, I did. And my lyrics at the end: if you want to be a singer or play guitar, man, you got to sweat or you don't get far. And if you're young, you'll never be old. Music can make your
Mhm.
dreams unfold. And hopefully, that's happening to me.
I think so. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. I did not realize this. You're, God bless you, 79 going on 80, and you look younger and healthier than I do. So God bless you.
Uh,
So,
you look good. You
well,
look good.
thank you. Thank you.
I try to
Um,
keep fit. Yeah.
That's all we could do, right? So I know you didn't re-record these songs, but I do have a number of Kiss fans who watch this show, and I'm just curious about this. It's bizarre to me. Ace Frehley recorded some of your songs, Kiss did, and then Peter Criss on his 1982 solo album recorded "Let Me Rock You" and "Some Kind of Hurricane." I
Yeah,
think "Some Kind of Hurricane" you had released previously. Correct me if I'm wrong, but "Let Me Rock You" was just a demo that was never released. Could you talk about those two songs?
yeah. Well, I went in the studio into Utopia Studios. I had just had this song, this idea of doing she's some kind of hurricane, some kind of hurricane, and I had this idea for drums. The drums sort of down, 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 down. That kind of idea, and that sort of thrilled me. It was just the chorus idea. I finished I finished the verses. I did a whole new demo of it. Went into Utopia Studios, and CBS released it. It wasn't released. My version wasn't released with sort of much enthusiasm at all. I
Hmm.
don't think it was anyway at the time. But yeah, and then Pete Chris recorded it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty good. The other one was recorded. It was recorded again. It was recorded by Mickey Mouse. It was called "Let Me Rock You." That was I thought that was pretty good. I think I did a good demo of that
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
But it's a good song.
And who did you say recorded that before Peter
It was
Criss?
it, it was recorded by a band. It was a Mickey Mouse band, and it got in the charts. It got
Really?
low in the charts.
Okay.
It wasn't such a good. Um, oh, they did two of mine. I had a
Hmm.
bigger single with them as well. I can't remember the name of the band.
Okay.
You talked about 1977, I think.
Right. A long time ago,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'll have to search that out. I never knew there was another version
yeah, yeah,
besides Peter Chris's. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, but it's soul. It's a soul version
It's a
with
soul version.
brass and everything.
I will definitely check that one out. And what did you think of Peter Chris's versions of your two songs?
Yeah, yeah, brilliant, brilliant.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I
Now,
think.
obviously, you had a hit in the early 80s also with the song You Can Do Magic, right? So to me, that song, it so sounds like an America song. So we were talking before how you wrote New York Groove for Hello. I have to imagine you wrote this song specifically for America, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I
Okay.
did. It was
Okay.
Rupert Perry, who was then head of A&R in LA, and he was A&Ring America, and he asked if I could write something for them. I said, yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to give that a try. And I listened to their singles. Most of their singles. The one amazing thing, if I think about America, even then when I was thinking about America, they're the biggest sound. When I think about them, the biggest thing about America is that feeling of it's kind of what's it called when you have a lull to sleep?
Okay.
Hypnotic,
Hypno, yeah.
hypnotic. The idea of him. Da, 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 da,
Mhm.
da, 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 da. It's all so beautiful and flowing, and I thought that's got to write something. If you can go back to that, I
Mhm.
think that'd be successful. If you write something that's hypnotic, and it would just remind you of America.
Sure. Sure. No, and I think you accomplished that well. Is there any artist, old or new, that you say, man, I wish I could have written a song and have it recorded by this artist?
Um, yeah, I listened to it today. Actually,
Mhm.
I was playing. Somebody was with me here, and I was talking about Olivia Rodrigo. I know she's
Mhm.
British. She does her own tunes, and they're great. But I listened to her. She's really, really good. And she
Mhm.
writes with old. She writes, or whoever writes with her writes with old-fashioned chords. It's great. I listen to her, and I think, yeah,
Mhm.
she puts a different top line over the top, but the
Yeah.
chords are really, really classic chords. And I've said before, somebody like Adele.
Yeah.
Adele's good. I mean, and very grown up.
Mhm.
Wouldn't mind doing something like that. But they want to work with their own age group, Mike. Which is
Sure.
how it should be.
Right, right. So I just love the fact that you're naming artists that are I mean, especially with Olivia Rodrigo's probably 20, 25 years old. Do you keep up with new music?
Yeah, I listen to what's on, and sometimes uh yeah, in fact, some of her things are really quite sort of even the beats and
Yep.
that kind of thing is Junior Walker. It's shotgun.
Right, 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 right.
It goes right the way back to the 60s.
Sure.
Classic, classic.
Absolutely. So it's funny because you said they want to write with their own age group, and I
Yeah,
understand that.
yeah, of course they
But
do.
now I think of your career, and your first song was published, and you were 14 years old. So how does a 14-year-old get published on an album?
Oh, how does a 14-year-old? I don't know. You come up with the right melody. I was a guitar player,
Yep.
just playing the guitar and stuff, and I've started to write tunes, and I could play the piano, and I used to sit as much as playing the guitar, I used to sit on the piano and play things on the piano and come up with tunes and stuff. I got into a band. My brother Bob Henry, who was in Argent and then in the Kinks. We were together when we were like, my brother was 4 years older than me, but we had a band, 5 people in the band, and I said, I got this tune, and just played it to the band, just an instrumental. And we went into the studio for the first time I'd ever been into a proper studio in London. Uh, we all went in there together, and we put this instrumental down, and I knew Cliff Richard, the singer in England. His brother, I knew his brother-in-law,
Okay.
Cliff Richard. Yeah, it was a big, big singer, and his backing band were called the Shadows, and they were big as well. They were a really
Hmm.
big band, and they became great friends of mine in years later. But Cliff Richard's brother-in-law sent it to the Shadows Publishing Company, and they recorded it. But they recorded it 4 years later. They,
Right.
they, they recorded it when I was 18.
Wow.
They got it. They
Fascinating.
got it on a little acetate, a little
Right. Yeah,
tiny
yeah, sure.
acetate. Yeah, they
That's
got it on
awesome.
that. But they still recorded it.
That is awesome. Now, to me, and I mentioned before, I'm one of those music nerds that always read all the credits, right? So I would always say, oh, look, there's Russ Ballard's name again. Oh, there's Desmond Child's name, whoever it was, right? I always was in tune with that. Do
Yeah.
you feel, though, that songwriters are overall overlooked in the industry? Because to me, you guys are the one that are producing and writing those hits. But do you feel like sometimes you guys are overlooked in the industry?
Uh, well, I guess that's how it should be, really, because you, you're called basically the background people, aren't you? So I guess that's probably how it should be. Um, we're probably overlooked in the way now. I mean, songwriting has been a very lucrative part of the music business for many, many, many years. So I can't complain, but
Right.
I can complain about about the music now. We probably don't get just rewards as far as finance goes. As far as it used to be amazing, it used to be. Now you have to sort of make money and good money in music. You have to have tunes on film, in
Mhm.
elevators, in you know, in restaurants. That's called synchronization. Movies. You can make good money there, but everybody now wants to do it.
Right.
Years ago, in fact, one good synchronization in a film can be can be as good as 3 hit records it from really 40
Yep.
years ago.
Yep. 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 I forget which artist it was, but somebody I was just reading this a few months ago. One of these artists wrote a song for a TV show, like the intro song, and they said they made more money from that song than they have for their entire career, and they had like 10 top 10 hits. So it's like it's amazing how lucrative that could be.
Yeah,
And it's
well, that's it. That's it. Yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy, but it's true.
yeah. What's your position then on something like streaming and things like that?
Um, but I guess I don't know if it devalues the music. Years ago, I'm only saying that because years ago, music to get the latest music in England or the UK, you had the BBC Light program. It didn't even have a rock station. The only rock station we had was in Luxembourg, where you could hear it in the UK, but you heard it like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, the only place you could hear music was really You only heard, if you heard the latest Jerry Lee Lewis single or something like, or even the earlier on, even the Beatles, even the Love Me Do, when that very first single came out, those kind of tunes you only heard like twice a day. In between time, you had a big band. You had
Right.
you had other things going on, in the light program, and you had magazine programs and things like that. And then you got the latest Elvis Presley tune. That's how it used to be. Then
Absolutely.
suddenly in the 60s, everything broke loose. Everything,
Absolutely.
everything. We suddenly had like 10 music stations.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Fast forward in, let's just say, I don't know, 50 years, and people are talking about you. What song or group of songs do you say, this is the one I want to be most remembered for?
Uh, um, I don't know. Probably as a song, I'd like Voices to be remembered.
Hmm.
I know I recorded it, but I'd like that to be remembered. Other people have done it, but because I think it was a nice idea. The idea was a good one. I want to do some more like that if I can, with that introspective kind of thing. Um, Probably Since You've Been Gone, I guess.
Hmm.
Maybe God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
Okay. Well, all great songs. Now, with the new record, I know that you've released a few singles, Resurrected, New York Groove, God Gave Rock and Roll to. Any other plans to release anything else from the album?
Um, one I really like is called Courageous.
Okay.
It was written. That was written from a news item that I saw on BBC News at 1.
Hmm.
It was about a girl that was looking after her family. Her mother was in a wheelchair, and the kids. She had two siblings, a real young one and a middle one. This girl was about 11 or 12, and she got up every day, washed the kids, washed mother, made breakfast, and took the kids to school. It was just amazing. And they had
Mhm.
this whole thing about her being a carer.
Right.
She was, just a carer. It's the most beautiful thing. And I thought, got to have a song. She's got to have a song. So I wrote "Courageous." You're a courageous girl living in a mad world. And
Mhm.
yeah, I like that tune. I've got a soft spot for that tune. So I'd like that out sometime.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you're playing some shows in the next month or so, right? Is there any plans for you to slow down, and what can fans expect when they come to see you at these shows?
Well, I do all those tunes, all the tunes you've mentioned today. Mainly because I wrote them and I recorded them first of all, and I always, uh, oh, yeah, I've put them out there. I put out "Since You've Been Gone" first. I wrote "I Surrender" for
Mhm.
Rainbow as well. We do "I Surrender." We have been doing "I Surrender." I do "New York Groove." Do "God Gave Rock and Roll to You." But I do songs from the album as well. Other songs that I do in the night as well. I did it in the night.
Mm.
Uh, another tune. In Germany where I'm going to Bavaria, mainly Bavaria and Switzerland. They sing all the choruses and sing along with me. Which
Mhm.
is lovely.
That is awesome. Any plans to tour anywhere like in America?
I'm not invited,
Oh
Mike.
no. Well,
Got to
we've got to
invite me.
change that. We've got to change
Yeah, yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, we did with Argent. We did
Right.
I don't know, eight tours there, I guess, in the 70s. And
Okay.
I did one myself in my own band. The only time I've ever toured with my own band was 1976.
Hmm. I think it's
Yeah,
long overdue.
it's long overdue. I agree.
Absolutely. Well, Songs from the Warehouse is out on April 18th, a double record, right? One of all new songs, one of all your classics recorded by you. Is there anything else that you want your fans and everybody around the world to know about your record and your career?
Well, if you want to know anything about it, I can tell you where you can get in touch with me.
Yes, please.
I wrote it down here, actually. I wrote it.
Perfect.
I've got the website is russballardmusic.com. Uh, and I've got that. That's a good friend of mine, Sven. He's a German guy actually. He looks after that. Russ B News. That's Russ dot news. Russ B dot news. I don't know if it's Russ B dot or Russ dot B news at
Okay.
hotmail.co.uk. And Carol on Facebook, that's just Russ Ballard, singer-songwriter.
Okay. And will the new album be available in digital format? Is it going to be on vinyl? Do you know?
Yeah, it's got yes, yeah. I've been signing them today. Actually,
Oh, nice.
I've been signing some today, which is yeah. It's been taking quite a few hours actually to do them.
And the signed copies, are those going to be on your website?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So definitely anybody who's watching or listening, if you're interested, go check out Russ's website. I've heard some of the songs on the album. We know all these classics Russ has written over the years. I personally think people are going to love it. Check it out on your website and make that purchase. I think it'll be well worth the money.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. That's
Excellent.
great.
Russ, this has been a pleasure. I want to thank you for just the memories for decades and so many great songs. And I'll keep my fingers crossed that we could get you over here in America.
Yeah, you never know. In my life, surprises always seem to happen. So uh, I hope so.
I hope so as well. And I wish you best of luck with the new record coming out.
Thanks, Mike. God bless.
Thank you. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Russ for being very generous with his time, talking all about his amazing career, as well as his newest album coming out, Songs from the Warehouse, The Hits Rewired. Make sure you check that out, coming out on April 18th. Once again, thanks a lot, Russ, for your time. It was a great chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.